There we go. Hi, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Lunchtime Live. I'm Pia from Stitches and Scraps, and this is episode 83. Hi, Beth. Hi, Dawn. It's good to see you guys. You guys beat me here today, actually. All right, so let's get started. For those of you who are new here, Lunchtime Live is basically my video newsletter. So I'll tell you what's new, what's going on at Stitches and Scraps. And then we end with a quick demo or tutorial. Now for this year, I've decided to do a stitch of the week every week, and I'm alternating between knit and crochet stitches. So this week's stitch is the crochet shell stitch. Let me show you that real quick, the shell stitch. Now, so here's the thing. I was going to do all about the shell stitch, and here's all these different variations and all these different things you can do, and shells this way and shells that way, and then I realized that would be like a 3-hour long episode. So today I am specifically looking at these, what's the word? Staggered crochet shells that make a solid stitch, where the shells are staggered. There are like thousands of variations on shell stitch. We'll touch on a couple of them, but I'll save the rest for some other day. Maybe we'll do some of the other variations later in the year. But that is going to be the demo for this after this video. Sorry, at the end of the video. The other thing I want to tell you, if you are new here, is to look in the description on the video. There's a link to a blog post. And all of the things I'm talking about today, hi Mary, good to see you. All of the things I'm talking about today are listed in that blog post with links. So if I show a pattern and you want to get the pattern, go to that blog post, you'll see the link to the pattern right there. Anything I talk about is going to be in there, and if it's not, I'll add it afterwards. So, but I think everything's in there. So let's get started with what's new this week, and that is the tutorial for the bottom of this bag, for this flower circle. Now I made the tutorial for the circle as a standalone thing, because this flower circle itself, without the rest of the bag, I mean, it's great as the base of a bag, right? But without the rest of the bag, this makes a great trivet, pot holder type thing, or doily, you know, put a candle on it, whatever you want. Or the center part only, if you just do the pink part, makes a great set of coasters. Here's a coaster I have, and you can see that it's just the same size. So it's perfect for a set of coasters if you wanted to do just the flower part in the center. Oh, I got a comment. Let's see. I have like 4 granny blankets in the making plus a knitted blanket. That is a lot of stuff, Kendra. I'm like you though. I can't, well, I shouldn't say that. I'm like, okay, so I start a bunch of projects, but I'm really only working on one at a time. Like I go through these phases. I'll start this and start this and start this and start this, but then I'll sit down and finish this. And like, I'm totally focused on this. And then I'll pick up one of the other ones I started and I'll finish that. And then I'll go back and start 6 more. But I don't tend to like flit as much back and forth anymore. Usually now, because I'm working to deadlines. I used to like to work on several different projects, some knit, some crochet, all different thicknesses of yarn, so that my hands got to do different things all the time, and so they wouldn't get tired. But I will tell you the truth, guys, being a designer and blogger, I spend more time on my computer than I do actually knitting or crocheting. So I don't have that issue. I don't get as much knit and crochet time as I'd like to anymore. So I tend to like have to rush through this project for this deadline and this project for that deadline. I'm with you, Kendra, though. If I'm just doing it for fun, I do like 20 different projects at once. Because I mean, come on, how can you stay focused on one thing when it's not, when you don't have to finish it? Anyway, so speaking of focus, so that was the tutorial that came out this week. Now, if you're new to the bag along, let me explain the bag along to you. So this is bag number 2 for the bag along the bag along crochet along that we're doing on Stitches and Scraps all year this year. Each bag has 2 months. So this bag is for March and April, and the pattern comes out, which the pattern's already out, and then I start releasing tutorials after that. So the first tutorial was for the bottom. In 2 weeks, I believe, or 3 weeks, something like that, I'll be doing the tutorial for the sides. And I'm going to do that as a general, here's how you do tapestry crochet from a chart in the round when you're not doing increases kind of thing. So it can be used for anything. The tutorial can be used for a cowl or for, you know, anything that you want to do, any sort of bag, anything you want to do in the round to make a tube in tapestry crochet. Thank you, Dawn. Here, take another look. I love this bag too. This is my favorite so far. Of course, we've only had 2 bags so far, but this is my favorite of the 2. But I will have that tutorial out in a few weeks, whatever the date is that it says. If you go to the main crochet along post, I have the full schedule there, so you can see the dates I'm planning to release those tutorials. Now, while I was recording the bottom tutorial on the bag, I did a different, like a different way of joining the rounds to make it a smoother join. And I thought that would be great as a standalone separate tutorial. So I'm going to actually using clips from the same tutorial. So the information's already there in the bigger tutorial, but that tutorial is like half an hour long. So I'm gonna make a 1 or 2 minute tutorial on just how to do that join. I've already got the video done. I just have to write the quick post. So I should have that out next week, hopefully. And also I've been working, oh, I didn't bring it down with me. I always forget something. When I do these videos, I forget something upstairs that I needed. I have been working on, well, I haven't been working on it yet. So far I've wound the yarn. That's as far as I've gotten. I've wound the yarn to start working on a pair of socks. Annie's Creative Studios. Annie's has kit clubs. Sorry, not Creative Studios. Annie's, they do everything. Annie's catalog, Annie's Creative Studios, but they have Annie's kit clubs. And one of the kit clubs is Love to Knit Socks. And I love to knit socks. I like seriously love to knit socks. So, so they sent me a free kit out for, you know, from that kit club. And it is the coolest colorway. It's all pinks and blues and greens. I posted it on TikTok and Instagram, but I'm going to be doing a review of that. I want to actually start the sock pattern before I write anything about it. But I'm going to be doing the pattern they have there, and I will be writing up a review, but I'll probably do some social media posts in between. So yes, you can never have enough socks. Oh my God. Okay. So you guys tell me if I'm weird in this, right? Most people say that your socks wear out at the heels or at the toes. Mine don't. Mine wear out right at the ball of the foot. Am I the only one who does that? Like right here at the ball of the foot is where all the pressure goes on my socks, and it wears out there. I have to mend that spot all the time. But anyway, yes, you can never have enough socks because socks do wear out. But I'm going to be working on that, and I will write more about it. And the reason I want to make sure to tell you about it right now is because right now, till the end of March for National Craft Month, they're having a great deal where you can get a free kit, and it doesn't have to be the sock kit. You can get a free one of any of their kits from any of their kit clubs. You can get a free kit, and you just pay the shipping and handling. So if you want to try out one of the kit clubs, and it's knit stuff, crochet stuff, scrapbooking stuff, sewing stuff, general crafting stuff, there are so many kits. Check them out and try any one that you want, and they'll give it to you for free with just pay shipping and handling. And I have that link. If it's not in the blog post, it will be after I'm done with this video, but I also have it on TikTok and Instagram right now. If you go to Stitches and Scraps /links, that's where I put all my TikTok and Instagram links. It's right there. It's the top thing because I just posted about it. Excuse me. So check that out. It ends at the end of March. Don't miss it. I don't know about the Craftsy Club. Honestly, I've never done the Craftsy Club. But I know the kit clubs from Annie's are good. So, because I've seen what they send, and I actually know one of the people who works in that department at Annie's, and I know, I've got a general idea of how they work that, and they're fantastic. So, And I like Annie's, you know, I mean, Annie's has been great to work with for lots of stuff, but check it out. If you're gonna try one, do it this month so you can get it for free and try it. Okay, that's my whole plug for that. And I have an affiliate link. If you use my affiliate link, I get a fee for it, but you can find that link at stitchesandscraps/links, and it's right there on top. And I'll put it in the link for this video too. But you want to do the pattern books from Annie's. Yeah, they have some great pattern books too. I've done I think I've done a couple of patterns for them in a couple of their magazines, but I haven't done any of the pattern books. But yes, they're a great company to work with, and I like the way they do things, you know, and I think that's important when you're choosing a company, because there's lots of companies out there. So you want to work with somebody who you like the way they work, you know. Okay, so sock review coming up, possible mini tutorial coming up. I have nothing definite on my calendar, so those are the two things I'm thinking about doing. But I will post something, I just don't know what it is. And then next week's tutorial is going to be the knit brick stitch, which, if I'm not mistaken, is a type of mosaic knitting, but don't quote me on that. I have to go check what I wrote down for the brick stitch. But I believe it's a 2-color brick that I did in a washcloth once. So I have to go check my notes, but that's what I'm going to be doing for next week's demo. For this week's demo, we're going to jump right into the crochet shell stitch here. And of course, I can't just teach it to you one way, because that wouldn't be me. So here's the thing. The repeat for this swatch that I made is, well, okay, let me tell you, the repeat for this type of shell stitch is typically a multiple of 6 plus 1, okay? I've done this as a multiple of 6 plus 4, and I'm going to show you why. So I'm going to teach it to you this way first so that you can get the gist of what we're doing, and then I'll explain to you on the chart why I chose the multiple of 6 plus 4 instead of the multiple of 6 plus 1, and when you might want to use one or the other. So let's start with simply doing it the way I've got it here. So I need, and I'm going to do 2 repeats just like I've got here. So I need a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 1 repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 2 repeats. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the number of stitches I need, which is 12 and 4 is 16, plus 1 for the turning chain. And then we're going to just start right in on the pattern. I like to work in the back bumps. I know Beth hates to work in the back bumps. Work into the chain however you want to. It doesn't matter for this. So single crochet into the second chain from the hook. Okay. Now the shell itself is, get my pencil to point with. The shell itself is 5 double crochet worked into the same spot, right? Because of the height of the double crochet, it covers, this shell covers a space of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. So you skip 2, you work into the third one, and then you skip 2 for each of the shells. So we're going to skip 2. Okay, let me zoom in a little more here. There we go. Skip 2. Okay, work 5 double crochet into the next space, or next chain. 3, 4, and 5. Skip 2. Now that one looks a little hidden, right? Don't forget to count that one. So that's 1, 2, and then single crochet into the next one. And it's important to do the single crochets between them to get this look, because that's what pulls the shell down. If you do a double crochet here, it stays at the height and it doesn't look the same. It doesn't fan out as much, right? So there's the single crochet, skip 2, 5 double crochet in the next chain or stitch or whatever you're working into. I'm going fast because you all know how to make a double crochet, and there's lots of them. 5. Okay. Oh. All right, and then we skip 2, and then we do, I shouldn't have, oh, skip 2 and then single crochet. I almost forgot the single crochet right there. Okay. There we go. Now when I skip 2, I'm down to just the very last chain, right? So I don't want to put a full shell at the end because I don't want it to curve around. I don't have 2 more stitches to skip over here. So what I'm doing at the end is this half shell, which is just 3 double crochets. Okay, so 3 double crochets. You want to do the, oh, I do knit and, oh, I love diamond painting. I never have the time for diamond painting, but I do love it. But yeah, yarn crafts are great when you're having mobility issues. Okay, so 1, 2, only 3. So that's like, if you notice on each of the shells, the 3rd double crochet is sort of like the center stitch, right? So we're just working to the center of the shell. Okay, now the next row, in the center of each of the shells, we're going to put a single crochet. And in each of the single crochets, we're going to put another shell. So that's going to nest our shells in between the existing shells. So we've got a shell here and a shell here. We're going to put a single crochet at the top of each of those and then fill in this gap with a shell right here. Since we're at the top, at the middle of a shell, that means we're going to start with a single crochet because we're at the top of a shell. Now we come to the single crochet in the center. So we're skipping these 2 double crochet and we do our shell in the single crochet. And then we come to the center of a shell because we skip those 2 double crochets, and then we do a single crochet at the top of the shell. Okay, skip 2 and shell into the single crochet. 4 and 5. Okay, I'm at the top of a shell, I single crochet into that. See how that like evens it out? Because the low points get the tall stitches and the high points get the short stitches. So when you do a pair of rows, it evens out the height. And then right at the end here, remember we do our half shell. So you may have noticed that both of those rows were actually exactly the same. And that is why I like this multiple of 6 plus 4, because you're always starting with a single crochet. And you're always ending with a half of a shell. So every single row is the same, right? When I turn this, I start with a single crochet, I end with half of a shell. So every single row is the same. It's a 1 row repeat. Start with a single crochet, skip 2 shells, skip 2 single crochet, all the way to the last stitch, and then skip 2 and half of a shell. And it's the same thing going this way. So that is the reason I like the multiple of 6 plus 4. The problem with the multiple of 6 plus 4, or not necessarily problem, the only reason you may want to change from doing this multiple is because the center, there is no shell that is centered in this, right? The center of this is actually like somewhere right here, halfway between the shell and a single crochet, somewhere in there. It doesn't fall nicely on any one thing. If you have a pattern where you want to have a shell directly in the middle, that's when you need the 6 plus 1. So imagine if I just cut off these 3 stitches, okay? Imagine we just did that. Now this is a multiple of 6 plus 1, okay? So what this does is on one row you start with a single crochet and you end with a single crochet. You see that? Then on the next row you start with a double crochet. You start with the shell, the half the shell, and you end with half a shell. So now you have a 2 row repeat where you're going back and forth between single crochet and single crochet on the ends and shells on the ends, right? That's the most common way I've seen this stitch written, and it puts this shell and this single crochet directly in the middle of your work. So that's why people generally like this, because it's like even number of repeats across, and everything symmetrically works out nicely. Whereas I like this because it's perfectly reversible and you can write it in one line. They're both perfectly reversible. Here, look. There's the other side and there's this side. You cannot tell the difference. Kendra, did you have a question? Let's see. You make it look so easy. It is so easy. Seriously, it is so easy because you already know all the stitches. It is 5 double crochet and single crochets. The only thing that trips people up is when you forget, okay, 2 things. Either you forget to skip enough stitches, or like when you have finished a shell, it's hard to see the next stitch, so you don't count that and you skip too many stitches, or you forget to do the single crochets in between. And either one of those will throw you off completely. And it's really easy to do. The setup row is the hardest. Once you get that, then you start to see, you know, here's where the shells are, here's where the center is. So I'm going to show you this repeat with leaving off the last 3 stitches. So we start with a single crochet, then we do a shell, 3, 4, 5, okay, then we skip 2 stitches and we do a single crochet at the top of this shell here, okay, skip 2 stitches, do a shell here, 3, 4, 5, and then skip 2 stitches and do a single crochet here. Now I'm going to leave off the last 3 stitches. Just ignore those 3 stitches because I'm showing you this repeat instead without those 3 stitches. So now I have a single crochet here and a single crochet here. So when I've got a single crochet, I need to put a shell in it, but I'm at the edge of my work, so I'm going to chain 3 or do a chainless starting double crochet, or however you like to start your double crochet rows. But chain up to the height of a double crochet and then just put 2 more double crochets in here so that now we have the 3 double crochets for that half shell, right? And then you do single crochet, double crochets for the shell. I'm getting tangled up in my swatch. Okay, 4, 5. Single crochet in the top of this shell. And then we're at the end, so it's a half of a shell. So you can see you've got 1 row that starts and ends with single crochet and 1 row that starts and ends with half shells. And then this shell is directly in the center of that. So that is a multiple of 6 plus 1. This is a multiple of 6 plus 4. And those are the 2 ways that you can do the shell stitch most easily without having to make adjustments for extra stitches on the edge and stuff like that. So variations on this. I'm actually going to pull back out to here, finish this row, and then show you some variations. So shells are you typically see shells as 5 double crochet, but you can work shells. Well, let's talk about something else first. Let's talk about the easy variations first. Okay, so basically when you're making a shell, any of these 5 double crochet, any of them can be replaced with a chain. Okay, you could go double crochet, chain, double crochet, chain, double crochet. You could go 2 double crochet with a chain at the center. You could even go chain 1, and then 3 double crochet, or chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1. Literally any combination of these can be replaced with chains. Now, when you start to get really open shells that have lots of chains in them, people tend to call them fans. And that's the real difference between a fan and a shell. That's really the only difference. Fans tend to be opener is not a word. Fans tend to be more open and lacier, and shells tend to be smaller and more closed. Fans also tend to be bigger, but we'll get into size in a second. But like, so suppose, let's do a couple of them. Let's do a single crochet here. Now let's look at one shell where I go double crochet, chain 1 instead of this double crochet, right? And then double crochet, and then chain 1 instead of that one. Okay, and then double crochet. So I still have the equivalent of 5 stitches, right? It's double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And then when I work into the shell, I'll work into it here. So that's a less solid shell. It gives you a lacier feel. Let's go to the next one. There you go. See, that's what that shell looks like. Let's go to the next one and let's try doing a crazy shell here, okay? I'm going to replace this stitch and this stitch with chains. So chain 1 and then just 3 double crochets in the center. And then chain 1 and single crochet into here. So now you still have what looks like a solid shell, but it's got space around it and it still takes up the 5 stitches. So it's still fine, right? Another thing you could do is replace that center stitch with a chain. And I like to do that. That's almost like a double thick V stitch to me. It's 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. Okay. Now, from a pattern writer's point of view, there is a very good reason why I like to do this shell. It is easier to say single crochet in the next chain 1 space than it is to say skip 2 double crochet, single crochet in the 3rd double crochet at the center of the shell, skip 2 double crochet. It's easier when you're working back into it to find that chain 1 space and know that you're in the right spot at the center of the shell rather than trying to find the correct double crochet. So if you have trouble with shells, try replacing the center one with a chain 1 space. It'll be a little bit more open, but you'll have a much easier time finding it. And then you know you're not like screwed up with where you're putting your stitches. So that's how you can change it, by making them lacier and replacing some stitches. The other thing you can do with shells is you can work them with any stitches you want, but I have a caveat to that, okay? There's this balance between the height of the stitch, the number of stitches you use, and the number of stitches you skip. And if you get that balance wrong, your shell will be too stretched, or it will ruffle, and it just won't look nice and it won't lay flat. So 5 double crochet and skipping 5 stitches works great, because this double crochet at this angle covers approximately the space of 2 stitches. When you draw the double crochet, you can see that it just nicely, at the same length as this, nicely lines up with the top of that single crochet. So that's why the 5 double crochet and this works so well, right? If you're doing treble crochets, I would go 7 and I would put 3 in between. So like here's my center treble crochet. Okay, and I know I forgot to put the little yarn overs on all my doubles. These are doubles, not half doubles. Okay, so there's my center treble crochet. I would skip 3 and put my single crochets here. Okay, because when I draw something about that same length, that's about that same length, right? And that works well there. And then to fill it in, I would go like that. So I would go 7 trebles, and there's some, you know, you can fudge this, but I would put the equivalent of 7 stitches, and then you have to make it cover the equivalent of 7 stitches. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, same thing goes if you're doing like half double crochets or single crochets. Like you could do a single crochet shell with 3 or 5 single crochets, but then I would only skip 1 stitch on each side. So then I would go 3. So single crochet shell, I would go like single crochet, single crochet, single crochet, skip these 3 stitches, and I drew that badly. Well, something like that with this single crochet in the center stitch here, and then the other shell there. So I would go like that. Yeah, I drew that kind of badly. All right, let's do the plus signs. Those are easier. Plus sign, plus sign, plus sign. So it's like that. 3 single crochets into that one, and then the single crochet on each end. So you have to adjust. You can change the stitches, you can change the number that you're covering. You have to adjust the height of your stitches to make it match. You can do pointier, taller shells by making, you could even start a shell with, okay, let's do a shell that has a treble crochet in the center of it. Okay, I used 4 for treble, okay. And then has double crochets next to it, and then maybe a half double crochet, and then a single crochet. Okay, see how that doesn't cover as much, but you've got more stitches in it and it's pointier. So you can totally do that too. You can get really creative with how you want your shells to be. You could do 3 double crochets here, and so it's still just covering 2 stitches here, but you're using the tall stitch to get some extra height in the center. So that's another thing you could do with it. So there's all different ways you can play with your shells. There's millions of different ways you can play with your shells, but the basic way that most people learn first is this one. The other one that's really cool is stacked shells, where all the shells are worked. Like this is another really common one, where all your shells are worked into the shells. So you have these columns of shells, and then you have to put like single crochets and then double crochets in between and like that to even out your height, and that makes it more even, more open, but it's another really cool look. So I'll show you that one maybe another time. Open shells, I'll do that maybe another time. But that's a basic introduction to shell stitches. It's such a wide range of stitches that are called shells that it's impossible to like teach you, this is shell stitch, and now you're done. Shell stitches are like anything where you're putting lots of stitches in one and it's spreading out like that can be called a shell or a fan. So basically lots of stitches in one stitch that open up like a shell or a fan is a shell stitch, and that's all there is to it. So any questions on any of that? Kendra, what part of it is difficult for you? Like, where do you get stuck on the shell stitches when you try it? I'm waiting for her to type. Well, if she's still watching, I hope she's still watching. But anyway, that is, we'll see if she responds. But that is all I have for you today. And again, for next week, we will be doing the knit brick stitch. And I have to check my notes to see what I was doing. The start, and it just ruffles. Okay, so the start of it, that's where I was showing you that there's 2 different ways to start, so you have to be really careful with what the pattern says, right? But the ruffle part means that you are not skipping enough stitches or you're putting too many stitches into your shell. That's it. You either aren't spacing your shells far enough apart or you're putting too many stitches in them. So try, if you're doing double crochet shells, make sure you have 2 skipped stitches on each side of the shell every time. If you are doing double crochet shells, make sure you only have 5 double crochets. Those are the 2 things that are going to cause you ruffles. As far as starting, if you're having trouble finding the right spots on the chain, before you start crocheting, stick a stitch marker into each chain that you're going to be using for the shell. Like, count it out. Here's 10 chains. I'm sticking a stitch marker in this one, in this one, and in this one. So now I know that my shells go in those stitch markers, and you can even use a different color stitch marker for where your single crochets go in between. And that way you're not trying to count the chains after you're working into them and pulling them tight. You're counting them ahead of time. You know it's all spaced out right, and then you can just crochet. So that's another option. And I hope that helps. And that's all I have. So I'm just going to say bye and have a wonderful weekend. And I will hopefully see you all here again next week for Lunchtime Live. Bye.